Welcome to the Identity Security Solution Show. Today I have with me Wendy Wu, our CMO, and we are going to dive into the Horizons of Identity Security report. So Wendy, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Jaishree.
What we wanted to do is really get the conversation started on the Horizons of Identity Security report, right? I know you always say this is one of your favorite projects because 4 years ago, we sort of embarked on this journey together to really look and understand where this landscape is heading. What is the maturity of the space, right? And I also say this is one of my favorite projects. This year was very interesting in terms of how we approached it, right? And so same way we worked with McKinsey, we interviewed, we surveyed about 375 identity security professionals around the globe. And the data is very interesting, as you know. 63% of, the global companies are still at the very early stages. And some of the stats were very, very interesting. So wanted to have you here because you're deep in this research. You have a lot of conversations with customers, partners on this as well. Wanted to have you to get your insights on this report. So I have the pleasure to ask you 5 questions for the Identity Security Solution Show and make it really simple for others. And here's my goal. I want everyone to really read this report. And I'm sure you will have the same goal too. Here's my first question to you. What's the biggest surprise from this year's report?
Yeah, thank you so much, Jaishree. I mean, this has been such a journey we've come along together for the past 4 years, from Horizon 1.0 now to Horizon 4.0, right? Every year we look at the landscape, we had a ton of takeaways. I will say though, for the past 3 years, consistently, we see the market matures a little bit forward. Maybe not a whole lot, but the market is definitely moving forward. What's super surprising this year is in addition to the forward movement this year, we see, as we always see, this year, we actually see backward movement. The data shows that every 6 companies that move forward on their identity maturity horizon, there are 4 companies that actually would move backward. This is insane. Think about it, right? So we started to ask ourselves, why is that a case? How is that even possible? We've never seen this pattern in the past. And then those companies move back, not because their investment in identity get reduced or their program performance dropped. It is only because this year we actually raised the bar for Horizon 4 and 5, right? So those are the maturity horizons. To really qualify for that, you have to really deploy the most recent technologies. You have to govern your AI agents. You have to have real-time access capability. You have to really look at how you embed identity data model into your program so you can really empower all the decision making based on the rich context you can have. And for companies who may have already achieved Horizon 4 in the past, if they don't have these capabilities, they of course would slip back, right? That is where the backward movement is coming from. And while it's surprising, it's not surprising.
Yeah.
If you don't adapt, then you're left behind.
It's a fascinating message, right? Companies need to keep transforming because the industry is changing so rapidly. This report this year really got into a lot of details on the ROI. Identity is providing the strongest ROI. Can you share more information on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So the data is actually quite surprising from this perspective. We looked at what is the ROI for all of your security investment, and guess who ranks the first? IAM, right? So out of all of the security investment, ROI came out the top. 30% of the organizations rank that as their single highest security investment that is giving them the highest ROI. That's higher than cloud investment. That's higher than cloud security, than endpoint security, higher than network security, and that number is higher than the average, which is 14%. So identity clearly is not just about ROI anymore. It's delivering so much measurable business outcome. That's why our identity leaders, security leaders are seeing the huge impact. And there are three distinctive drivers for the ROI. The first one is cost reduction. This is something that you can see immediately and very visibly. Organizations, they can automate access provisioning that used to take days, now down to minutes, right? That eliminates the entire menu process. Think about you have a new employee joining the company. How often it is that from day one, the minute the person walks in, they can have access right away. In the past, employees could be waiting weeks to get access
by the time
to
the laptop arrives, by the time they get access to everything that they need access to.
Yeah, so this kind of immediate access or time to access translate into time to value because their productivity gets started much earlier. Second piece, it's really about revenue generation, right? That is where identity gets super interesting as a business enabler. When your sales teams, your partners, or your developers can access what they need on the spot, think about it. That unlocks all the potential for they to be way more productive, to accelerate, to go to market, to accelerate their revenue generation activities. And we see this very well in M&A scenarios. And our data research shows companies that are at a mature horizon level, they can go through M&A integration 60% than those companies who are at a much lower maturity
efficiencies level. Yes.
There you go, right? Unblock all the roadblocks that you might have to deal with if you don't have a mature identity process in place. And the third piece is business enablement. It's on that, the sense that identity is become the connective tissue across your entire organization. Think about when you embed identity context into your HR system, your CRM platforms, and ITSMs, it powers all the automation at scale. Your CRM gets smarter, right? Your HR gets much more user-friendlier, and your ITSM is just way more efficient. And that scales much faster, much bigger.
No, thank you for that, Wendy. That's, you got into the depth of it, and it's just fascinating to see how far identity has also come and the value that identity is driving for organizations. Now, I want to really get into the different sectors, the different industries. How about you share more information on what's the research show across the different industry segments?
Yeah, that's a great question. There is definitely some very, very interesting patterns that emerged when we were looking at how industries compare with each other in terms of their maturity. The maturity level definitely varies from industry to industry, and I want to just give you a few examples here. Technology industry is fascinating. It is polarized. Can you believe that they have the most companies in advanced maturity? 15% of the tech companies have already achieved 4 or 5. That's way higher than any other sector. But at the same time, we see a lot of companies are still stuck in Horizon 1. 46% of the technology industry are still in Horizon 1. How is that the case, right? Why is it polarized? Turn out that a lot of the digital first startups, they're scaling fast. They're very cloud native, but they're in the very early stage of IAMs, right? As they figure out how to run their business, their IAM practice, it's in the infancy stage. That's why they're on Horizon 1. But I wouldn't be surprised once these companies get it going, they'll quickly lead up to Horizon 3 and 4 and even beyond. And then the next example I'll give you is banking. We see financial services pretty well distributed across the entire maturity spectrum. 32%, about a third of them are on Horizon 3 already, which is pretty good. 13% in Horizon 4 and plus, right? So this makes total sense because all of the regulatory tailwinds and structured risk governance is the push behind those maturity developments. Their challenge now is how they evolve from compliance-driven IAM to automation and continuous access governance at scale, right? So they need to keep pushing and adopt the latest technology to advance further. Healthcare is probably our biggest to win there. They have increased their Horizon 4 from 6% a year ago to 10% in 2025.
That's a big
4%
growth.
leap in just 1 year, that is a significant growth. The driver behind that is a lot of the post-pandemic digitization of the clinical systems, and there is the increased focus on zero trust under the regulatory guidance. So that's what's the big push for
That's driving
healthcare
them.
to mature up. And the last one I'll just say is on the low end, we see manufacturing actually struggling more than the other industries. 61% of the manufacturing companies, they're still stuck on Horizon 1. That's more than any other industries. Whereas only 4% of them have reached Horizon 4 and beyond. So these companies, they're dealing with very complex legacy environments. They have a lot of tech debt. They have probably lower IAM investments compared to other industries. So there is a lot of challenge in managing the very diversified identity types across their environment. They have different like factory staff, contractors, and machines, right? So it's a complicated environment that made it even more challenging for them.
Every industry is so different in terms of the compliance, regulated industries and the non-regulated industries. But it's really fascinating. Identities is growing across the board. The breadth of identities is growing across all industries, right? Machines, agents that we're looking at. So thank you for sharing this. Now, I really want to get into, you've provided a lot of data. What would you say are the top 3 takeaways from this year's report?
Yes, 3 takeaways. Okay. So the first one, I think I just talked about it. Identity delivers the highest ROI, right? It ranks number 1 out of all of the security investments. The second takeaway is AI agent identity management is really becoming the new dividing line. Organizations that can govern their AI agents or machine identities, they're the one really advancing to Horizon 4 and beyond. But if you don't, you're going to fall behind, right? So this creates a very strong urgency that we have to get those AI agents and machine identities under control. Otherwise, you're going to the gap between the leaders is going to be bigger and bigger. So that's what we call the dividing gap, right? Number 3 is around deployment. Deployment is still a big hurdle for our customers. We heard from them loud and clear. The data shows only 14% of the companies say their last deployment was a complete success. And 48% of them say their deployment exceeded budget. Can you imagine that? Basically, vast majority of the deployment was a flop or they just went over budget. The advice that we gave to customers on this is to really achieve successful deployment, you need to start with clean your data. Make your data clean as the absolute needed foundation. You need to use a tiered governance framework to make sure that, number 1, you have visibility to all the applications in your environment. And then based on the risk score you can see, then you can quickly decide what application needs to be compliant, right? And what applications with more mission critical needs, they need to be put under full governance, right? So that is absolutely necessary. And the third one is to scale, you need to build reusable templates. That way you don't have to keep reinventing the wheel every single time.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Those 3 takeaways are so important, and this report is fantastic. As I always state, this report is very unique because we provide a very prescriptive path for customers to really look at it and saying, based on where they are in their journey, now it gives them a good pathway to move to the next horizon before the gap gets, a little bit more larger, right? So thank you for the key takeaways, Wendy. So one last question. What does the future look like when it comes to identity security?
Yeah, the future of identity is completely from what we have known, right? Like at our Navigate conference, we said reimagine tomorrow, right? So we really need to move away from the static, human-focused control to dynamic AI-driven governance that covers all the identities from humans, machines, to AI agents. And all of the decision making needs to happen real time. It cannot be admin time anymore, right? And we need to integrate identity context with the security context to empower that decision making in real time. So think about a shift. Traditional identity was all about setting up access once and then maybe reviewing it quarterly, monthly, but it's a very manual, broken process. The future of identity is all about making thousands of contextual access decisions per second or per millisecond, right, when you scale, based on the behavior, signals, you can see business context, and all of that. So identity is truly transforming itself from a necessary security control into a highest ROI strategic enabler for the business. But here is the challenge. Most organizations, they haven't realized its full potential yet. For the companies that have realized this, right, they will have a massive advantage. But the ones that don't, they're going to be outpaced by their competitors and attackers targeting at them.
So well said, Wendy. That was just so well said. You put it together so well. And, navigate. You've been talking about it to customers, Matt, Chandra, everyone have been talking about it, where it's about bringing identity, security, and data together. We're unifying it. The context aspect of it is so important. And, the report really highlights it. It's the importance, the breadth of identity and the depth of context as well.
Yes.
So, Wendy, thank you so much for spending time. And folks, there is just so much information in this report and the assessment. If you haven't done that assessment, go to our website, take the assessment together and go through the report. And there's just a lot of goodness, as I pointed out. Thank you for watching the Identity Security Solution Show.